What if I told you that one of the biggest bands of the 1970s destroyed itself by doing exactly what it set out to do? A band that wanted to combine rock music with a full orchestra, and actually succeeded. But the bigger the vision became, the harder it was for the band itself to survive. The story begins in Birmingham, England, in the late 1960s. A young musician named Jeff Lynne spends most of his time doing two things: listening to records and trying to understand how they were made. He is fascinated not just by songs, but by production, layers of instruments, the hidden mechanics behind great recordings. One band captures his imagination more than any other: the Beatles. But it is not just their early rock songs that influence him. It is what they become later. Songs like Eleanor Rigby,
picks up the rice in the church where a wedding is
where strings carry the entire rhythm, or A Day in the Life,
I read the news today, oh boy,
where an orchestra explodes into the middle of a rock track. Jeff Lynne starts thinking about something simple. What if rock music went even further in that direction? What if a band combined guitars and drums with violins and cellos permanently? Not as a small studio experiment, but as the core sound of the band itself. Now here is the strange part. At almost the exact same time, another musician in Birmingham is thinking about the same idea. His name is Roy Wood. Roy Wood is already a star in Britain as the creative force behind a psychedelic pop band called The Move. Through the late 1960s, the band scores several hits, including Blackberry Way and Fire Brigade.
Blackberry Way, absolutely pouring down. Run and get the fire brigade, get the fire brigade, see the bell.
But Roy Wood is restless. He believes rock bands should evolve into something bigger. Instead of guitars leading everything, he imagines orchestral instruments standing right beside them, violins plugged into amplifiers, cellos playing riffs like electric guitars. To most people, it sounds ridiculous. Rock bands are loud and aggressive. Classical instruments are delicate. Mixing the two seems like a technical disaster waiting to happen. But Roy Wood does not care. In 1970, he begins building a new project with Jeff Lynne and drummer Bev Bevan from The Move. At first, the plan is unusual. The Move will continue releasing pop singles, while this new group experiments with orchestral rock. They give the project a futuristic name: Electric Light Orchestra. Recording the music is incredibly difficult. String instruments do not behave well next to loud amplifiers. Microphones distort. The sound bleeds across the room. But Roy Wood keeps pushing forward. Then he takes a song originally written for The Move and adds heavy cello parts to the arrangement. The track becomes 1058 Overture. When the single is released in 1972, something surprising happens. It becomes a hit. The song climbs into the British top 10. Suddenly, audiences are excited about this strange fusion of rock and orchestra. For a moment, it looks like Electric Light Orchestra might change music forever. But behind the scenes, something is already going wrong. Because the band has two visionaries, and two leaders rarely survive inside the same band. Roy Wood wants strange experiments and unpredictable music. Jeff Lynne wants melodic pop perfection. Inside the studio, the tension slowly builds, and the breaking point is coming sooner than anyone expects. In 1972, the tension inside Electric Light Orchestra finally reaches its breaking point. Roy Wood walks away. Just like that, one of the founding visionaries of the band disappears only months after their first album is released. For most groups, losing a founder that early would destroy the project completely. Roy Wood quickly forms a new band called Wizard. Within a few years, he scores a massive holiday hit with I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day. He still has the ability to write huge songs. Meanwhile, Jeff Lynne is suddenly left holding the entire Electric Light Orchestra idea alone. But here is where the story takes a surprising turn. Instead of abandoning the experiment, Jeff Lynne decides to take full control of it. And once that happens, the band begins to transform. Jeff Lynne starts rebuilding Electric Light Orchestra around a single guiding idea. The music should still combine rock instruments with orchestral sounds, but it also needs something else: perfect pop melodies. Inside the studio, he becomes obsessed with production. not just recording songs, but engineering them. He begins stacking instruments layer by layer, multiple guitars, multiple vocal harmonies, strings recorded again and again until the sound feels enormous. Most rock bands in the early 1970s record fairly simple arrangements. Jeff Lynne does the opposite. His recordings become dense walls of sound. Sometimes dozens of tracks are layered together before the final mix. The result is something instantly recognizable. Even through a cheap car radio, an Electric Light Orchestra song feels huge. Producers later begin calling it the Jeff Lynne sound. The breakthrough arrives in 1974 with the album El Dorado.
On the water.
This time Jeff Lynne goes even further. Instead of just a few string players, the album features a full orchestra performing alongside the band. One song becomes the turning point, Can't Get It Out of My Head. The track climbs into the top 10 in the United States and finally gives Electric Light Orchestra its first major American hit. Suddenly, the band is not just a British curiosity, they are international. But Jeff Lynne is not finished refining the formula. In 1975, the band releases Face the Music. The album contains one of their most recognizable songs, Evil Woman. With its dramatic piano groove and sweeping strings, the track storms the charts and becomes a top 10 hit in America. Radio stations begin playing Electric Light Orchestra constantly. Then in 1976, the band releases a new world record.
That's the way it's gotta be. Rolling over it.
The title turns out to be almost prophetic. The album becomes a global smash and stays on the British charts for nearly 2 years. Songs like Livin Thing and Telephone Line dominate the airwaves.
It's a living thing. It's a do.
Electric Light Orchestra is no longer an experiment. It is becoming one of the biggest bands on Earth. But here is the strange part. The more successful the band becomes, the less it actually behaves like a band. Because behind the scenes, almost every creative decision is coming from one person, Jeff Lynne. And that level of control is about to push the band toward its biggest moment ever. But wait, because the next chapter is where the ambition of Electric Light Orchestra becomes almost unbelievable. By 1977, Electric Light Orchestra is already one of the biggest bands in the world. Their last album, A New World Record, has produced multiple hit singles and sold millions of copies. The pressure for the next album is enormous. Jeff Lynne feels it, so he does something unusual. He leaves England and rents a quiet chalet in the Swiss Alps to write the next record. The idea is simple: total isolation, no distractions, just time to create. At first, it goes terribly. For nearly 2 weeks, Jeff Lynne cannot write a single song worth keeping. The weather outside is cold and foggy, trapping him indoors. Day after day, he stares at blank paper. For a songwriter, that silence can feel terrifying. Then one morning, everything changes. The clouds finally clear, and sunlight pours across the mountains. Lynn later says the sudden light felt like a switch being flipped in his mind. And almost immediately, the songs start coming. Over the next few days, he writes 14 tracks. One of them will become one of the most recognizable songs of the entire decade, Mr. Blue Sky.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why you had to.
But Jeff Lynne is thinking bigger than a normal album. Instead, he decides the project should be massive, a double album. The record is called Out of the Blue, released in October 1977. And it becomes a phenomenon. The album eventually sells more than 10 million copies worldwide. In the United States, it reaches multi-platinum status. Across Europe, it dominates radio. Songs like Turn to Stone, Sweet Talkin Woman, Wild West Hero, and Mr. Blue Sky become defining hits of the era.
The range of the day till the first fading. The blue skies up there waiting, and today
But Jeff Lynne is not finished, because he wants the tour to be just as ambitious as the album. Most rock bands perform on simple stages with lights and speakers. Electric Light Orchestra decides to build something completely different, a giant spaceship. The stage design becomes one of the most elaborate concert productions of the 1970s. A massive, curved structure surrounds the band like a glowing flying saucer. Towers of lights blast hundreds of thousands of watts into arenas. Lasers cut through clouds of fog while the band performs beneath the structure. To give some perspective, the lighting system alone uses over 500,000 watts of power. That is more electricity than many small buildings use at once. Transporting the show becomes a massive operation. Dozens of trucks carry the equipment from city to city, while crews spend hours assembling the stage before each concert. And audiences love it. Night after night, arenas fill with fans watching Electric Light Orchestra perform hits like Mr. Blue Sky and Sweet Talkin Woman beneath the glowing spaceship. At the time, the Out of the Blue tour becomes the highest-grossing concert tour in history. But here's the hidden problem. Jeff Lynne has created a studio sound that live technology cannot fully reproduce. Electric Light Orchestra recordings contain dozens of layered instruments, strings, guitars, keyboards, and stacked vocals all blending together. Live sound systems in the 1970s struggle to recreate that density. So while the concerts look spectacular, the audio sometimes falls short of what fans hear on the albums. And maintaining such a massive production night after night begins wearing everyone down. Still, Jeff Lynne refuses to slow down. Instead, he makes a decision that surprises almost everyone in the music industry. He decides Electric Light Orchestra should embrace disco, and that choice will change the band forever. By the late 1970s, disco music dominates the charts. Dance floors are packed, radio stations are filled with steady rhythms, and record labels are pushing artists to follow the trend. Many rock bands resist it. Jeff Lynne studies it. He realizes something important. Disco is not just about dance beats. It is about tight production, strong rhythm, and songs that immediately connect with listeners. So he decides Electric Light Orchestra will adapt. In 1979, the band releases a new album called Discovery. Keyboardist Richard Tandy jokingly calls it Disco Very, and the nickname quickly spreads among fans. The music still carries Jeff Lynne's polished production style, but the rhythms are more direct and dance-driven. The strategy works instantly. The album reaches #1 in the United Kingdom and becomes another global success. Several singles flood radio stations and dance clubs. One song in particular becomes the band's biggest hit in America, Don't Bring Me Down. Ironically, the track contains almost none of the orchestral elements that originally defined Electric Light Orchestra. No violins, no cellos, just pounding drums, guitars, and heavy synthesizers. The song climbs into the top 5 on the Billboard chart and becomes one of the band's signature tracks. Another single, Last Train to London, becomes a major favorite in clubs across Europe. Commercially, Jeff Lynne has timed everything perfectly. But here's the twist. The more successful Discovery becomes, the more Electric Light Orchestra begins losing the very identity that made it unique. Disco does not need orchestras. It relies on synthesizers, keyboards, and rhythm sections. Slowly, the classical musicians who once stood at the center of the band are no longer essential. One by one, the orchestral members begin leaving. Violinist Mick Kaminsky eventually departs. Cellists Hugh McDowell and Melvin Gale leave as well. The musicians who helped define the original concept of Electric Light Orchestra are quietly disappearing. Without them, the band starts to feel very different. But the bigger problem is happening behind the scenes, because tension inside the group is rising. Bass player Kelly Gruckut has been a key member since the mid-1970s. His bass lines and harmonies helped shape the classic ELO sound. But as Jeff Lynne takes more and more control over the music, Gruckut begins feeling less like a partner and more like an employee. Other members feel the same frustration. Jeff Lynne writes nearly every song. He produces the albums. He controls the arrangements. Creative decisions flow in one direction. For some musicians, that structure becomes exhausting. Then, in 1983, the conflict finally explodes. Kelly Gruckut leaves Electric Light Orchestra and files a lawsuit against Jeff Lynne over lost touring income. The legal battle sends a clear message to fans and critics. Electric Light Orchestra is no longer functioning as a traditional band. It has become Jeff Lynne's studio project. Meanwhile, the music industry itself is changing. Synth pop and new wave bands are reshaping the charts. Jeff Lynne releases Secret Messages in 1983. But the excitement surrounding the band is fading, and the final chapter of the original Electric Light Orchestra story is about to begin. By the mid-1980s, Jeff Lynne is tired. For more than a decade, he has carried Electric Light Orchestra almost entirely by himself, writing the songs, producing the albums, designing the sound, and managing the pressure of global success. Eventually, the excitement fades. In 1986, the band releases Balance of Power. What many insiders quietly describe as a contractual obligation album. The record still shows Jeff Lynne's polished production style, but the massive orchestral identity that once defined Electric Light Orchestra is mostly gone. The lineup has shrunk to a small core, and after the release, Jeff Lynne simply walks away. Electric Light Orchestra quietly dissolves. But here is the unexpected twist. The same perfectionism that frustrated his bandmates suddenly becomes incredibly valuable to other artists. Jeff Lynne has spent years developing a signature studio style. Thick layered harmonies, clean guitars, warm production that somehow sounds nostalgic and modern at the same time. And legendary musicians begin noticing. One of the first is George Harrison of the Beatles. In the late 1980s, Harrison is preparing a comeback album and invites Jeff Lynne to help produce it. The result is Cloud 9.
Show you Cloud 9.
The record becomes a huge success, powered by the hit Got My Mind Set on You.
I got my mind set on you. I got my mind set.
Critics praise the album's bright sound and classic songwriting. Suddenly, Jeff Lynne is not just the former leader of Electric Light Orchestra. He is becoming one of the most respected producers in rock music. But wait, because the next moment in his career is even more unbelievable. In 1988, George Harrison invites Jeff Lynne to help record a simple B-side track. During the session, a few friends happen to stop by the studio. Those friends are Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, and Roy Orbison, 5 legendary musicians sitting in the same room. Instead of recording just one song, they decide to form a band. They call themselves the Traveling Wilburys. The lineup is almost absurd. A Beatle, one of the greatest songwriters in history, a rock icon, one of the most famous voices ever recorded, and Jeff Lynne, producing and performing alongside them. Their debut album becomes a worldwide success and wins a Grammy Award. Songs like Handle with Care sound relaxed and joyful.
Reputation's changeable. Situation.
The complete opposite of the rigid studio control that defined Electric Light Orchestra. For Jeff Lynne, it becomes a creative rebirth. Meanwhile, something else is happening quietly. Electric Light Orchestra's music refuses to disappear. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, songs like Mr. Blue Sky, Livin Thing, and Don't Bring Me Down keep appearing in movies, television shows, and commercials. Entire new generations begin discovering the band. Then in 2015, Jeff Lynne brings Electric Light Orchestra back to the stage for a massive performance in London's Hyde Park. More than 50,000 fans show up and sing along to every word. 2 years later, the band receives its final recognition. In 2017, Electric Light Orchestra is inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Looking back, the real story of the band is not failure, it is ambition. Jeff Lynne and Roy Wood wanted to continue the musical experimentation the Beatles had started. They wanted rock music to feel bigger, richer, and more cinematic. And in many ways, they succeeded beyond imagination. But the dream required perfection, scale, and control that no normal band could sustain. Electric Light Orchestra became too grand for its own structure. Yet the music survived everything, and every time Mr. Blue Sky plays, the dream still feels infinite. But here's the strange thing about Electric Light Orchestra. Even after the band slowly collapsed, the music refused to disappear. By the late 1980s, Jeff Lynne had moved on to producing other artists. His layered production style helped shape albums like Tom Petty's Full Moon Fever, which produced massive hits including Free Fallin' and I Won't Back Down. The same meticulous studio techniques that once frustrated his own bandmates were suddenly in high demand across the music industry. But something else was happening quietly in the background. Electric Light Orchestra's songs were beginning to find new life. Throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, movies and television shows started rediscovering the band's catalog. Songs like Mr. Blue Sky, Livin Thing, and Don't Bring Me Down kept appearing in soundtracks, commercials, and radio playlists. And a new generation of listeners began asking the same question: who made this music? Streaming only accelerated the revival. Mr. Blue Sky eventually became one of the most streamed classic rock songs ever recorded, with hundreds of millions of plays across digital platforms. For many younger listeners, the song felt completely timeless. It did not sound like something recorded decades earlier. It sounded fresh. But wait, because the story was not finished yet. In 2015, Jeff Lynne decided to test something. He agreed to perform a special Electric Light Orchestra concert in London's Hyde Park. No massive promotion, just one show. More than 50,000 fans showed up. As the opening chords of Mr. Blue Sky echoed through the park, the crowd began singing every single word. Entire generations were standing together. Fans who had discovered the band in the 1970s stood beside listeners who had first heard the song in a movie or on a streaming playlist. For Jeff Lynne, it was proof that the music had survived everything. Then came the final recognition. In 2017, Electric Light Orchestra was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The honor included Jeff Lynne, Roy Wood, Bev Bevan, and Richard Tandy, acknowledging both the original vision and the later evolution of the band. Looking back, the story of Electric Light Orchestra is not really about failure. It is about ambition. Roy Wood and Jeff Lynne wanted to take rock music somewhere new. They wanted violins and cellos to stand beside electric guitars. They wanted pop songs to feel cinematic. And they achieved that dream so completely that the band itself could not survive the pressure. Electric Light Orchestra became too grand for its own structure. But somehow, the music outlived all of it. The arguments, the lawsuits, the burnout. Because every time Mr. Blue Sky begins to play,
Blue sky, please tell us why you had to hide away for some.
people still feel the same rush of joy Jeff Lynne felt the day the clouds finally cleared in that Swiss mountain chalet. And maybe that was the whole point of the dream.